Well, good evening. I'm Bob Graves, and they call me the Unconventional Pastor. It's good to be back with you. Today is a very special day for me. This is my 24th wedding anniversary, and Lisa and I have been married for 24 years. We've we went out to dinner today. Had great food over at. We went to a place called the Number Five here, and I'm one of those cooks who I like to spoil myself, and oftentimes I go out to a restaurant and I don't. I would rather have cooked it myself, but the food there was really very, very good. And I say that that I'd rather cook it myself, but the truth is I don't always put every top drawer effort into every meal I prepare. My family will tell you that. But anyhow, it was a great meal, great company, and good to spend some time there with my wife. We've been together now, as I said, 24 years. It seems amazing. But what I'd like to do is, Lisa,
Yeah.
I'm going to call you in here in a moment if I could. Is that all right? People are wondering if she really exists. And so, come on in here. Just say hi. Let people know that you're really real, that you really do talk to me, that what have you. And because today I'm actually talking about love. And this is both because of the fact that it's my anniversary, but also because this is where I had this outline that I've been working on for the last several weeks, and we're now at that point in the outline. So how appropriate all is. So Lisa, can I talk into just coming out here and saying hi? Can I? Awesome. Here she is. Yep. You may have to actually lean down just a bit to say so that people can see you. And this is there you go. Awesome. And you may want to get.
I didn't know you were actually on air.
Oh. Yeah. Well, that's good. Now you know. There she is. Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm glad. I love you too. We'll talk to you later. Yep, and of course the doggies are here too, and they have to talk to us as well. Anyhow, tonight I was hoping to actually talk and focus more about this thing we call love, a big topic among people who believe in God. In fact, no matter how obtuse, weird, or strange a person's theology might be, almost all people want to say that God is a God of love. There are some out there who actually relish in the idea that, oh, no, God loves those who are his own, those who acknowledge Christ, but everybody else, he's just kind of really miserably angry with them, and he intends to in one day, and in fact, show them every bit of his wrath and what have you. But for the most part, people who are believers do tend to talk about a God of love. And we talk about this concept of love a great deal in our culture. We what the world needs now is love, sweet love. What a wonderful song that was. It comes out of Motown. Um, um, Tremendous song. Or I even think of that song put together. Oh, why can't I think of his name? That unusual producer who's produced so many different people. I can't think of his name right now. He's the guy who's always threatening people with the gun and now in jail. But anyway, his to know him is to love him. We sing about love. We talk about love. We preach about love. We focus on this idea of love so much in our culture. But one of the things we rarely do is we rarely ask ourselves, what is it? We rarely talk about it and recognize that that we don't always mean the same thing when we use the word love as to what we mean by it, and not that we should. The word is used in many different ways, all of them very, very legitimate, but at the same time, when we talk about what we need is love, we don't always understand that. And I would want to even go so far as to say that some of the things we call love are not necessarily the most loving thing to do or to have or to talk about. And is not necessarily the sort of love we really need when we're talking about what we need is love. So, I want to talk a little bit about, my own trek into trying to understand what is this thing called love. And I'm going to end, I hope, on time with a focus on something I'm going to call vital love. And so, we have all sorts of things we call love. We have we got what brotherly love we talk about. This is, the love that different people may have for one another, being either closely related or strongly connected culturally, so that we treat each other as siblings, even if we're not. And it's a neighborly kind of thing in many ways, and it's a part of it's an expression of the joy and the commitment of being connected to another person in a way that makes us like family. And it's an important kind of love, and I think it's important to our culture that we have a kind of a brotherly love. But as important as it is, this is not the most vital kind of love that we need. It's a good love to have. It's a wonderful love to experience. It should be part of everyone's life, both receiving it and giving it. But there's a kind of love that goes much deeper than this, that we all really need. And I'm going to talk about that later. There's the kind of companionate love. It's the love that people would have who've been together, who have spent time with each other. And sometimes these companions can be either husband and wife, or sometimes just best friends. I can't remember who the one artist was. The Gregory Peck, I think it was, that it was talked about how one of his friends was dying, and as Gregory Peck went to visit him often while he was in his last days, he would just sit there. There was nothing to talk about. He would just be with this good friend of his, and the kind of a companionship there where they were friends. They were just, connected, and just the time they spent with each other, being there, being nearby, the proximate, being within the same room. There's a kind of a love where you're part of that other person's life, so that being there, even if there's nothing to say or do, is an important thing. And this is a beautiful kind of love. I think it's very important. Excuse me. And if you have a best friend, hopefully in your spouse, you also have this sort of connection. I know that the last thing that I can imagine is, after 24 years, my wife is not just some girl who's grown up into a woman that I think, she's kind of cute, and I like her, and I enjoy her company, and we've been through a lot together. We enjoy each other, and there's ways in which we can even be together. Sometimes, if we're in the same room, I would rather be sometimes, online in a computer while she's playing a game or something on her, but be in the same room and just be together, even if we're not necessarily doing something with each other. And saying, I got a comment coming in here. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay, here we are. And it says, we still don't believe she's real, Bob. Well, I can only do so much. And then after that, there's just nothing else I can do. So, yeah. Okay. Very good. We, when we're talking about love, though, let me get back to that. You got me off track. I thought that was so funny. But with the love that you have with somebody else, if there's this companionship, I tell you, I think all of us can benefit if we have a best friend, somebody that you can talk to, share with, somebody who you can count on if you really need help or something like that. Not somebody you are overly dependent on, but in many ways, hopefully even more than one relationship where there's just this closeness of a connection. That's a very good thing. This is more than just the brotherly love. This is a particularly personal connection with another person. And then there's something we talk about it and we sometimes put it down, but I don't think we should. There's a sense in which there's a conditional love. I think that there's a way in which conditional love is a kind of love that is very appropriate. And this is where we enjoy a certain person when they are behaving in a way that is appropriate, and where we don't enjoy them when they're not appropriate. And many times this is kind of the way we deal with a stranger. And I do think that there's a sense in which we need to have appropriate conditions for when people are going to be inside of our own personal boundaries. And I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing or a wrong thing. And so there's a sense in which there is even a legitimate element to even a conditional kind of love, and in a sense that that sets the limits and the boundaries, and recognizes things like that. We talk about eros as love, erotic love, and we talk about our sexuality as a kind of love. And I think that this is in some ways a complete misnomer, but in other ways it is an absolute accurate way of thinking about it, in that I think that although we as human beings can engage ourselves in sexual feelings and sexual attitudes and sexual ideas where love doesn't have anything to do with it, I do think that in a healthy relationship, between a man and wife, between two people who are really in love with each other, and who care about each other, that I think that when they are intimate with each other, there is a way in which, for those who have developed that relationship in a very healthy way, this is a very real celebration of the love they have for each other. And so there's a sense in which sexuality has this ability to be an expression of that love, but also has the ability to be something that is an expression that has nothing to do with love. And I think that as sexual beings, it's sometimes it's helpful for us to maintain a spectrum in this. I don't think that every time that that a married couple is engaged with some sort of sexual connection, that it always has to be some profound thoughtfulness of how deeply they're trying to express love. Sometimes just be having a bunch of fun, but nonetheless, we oftentimes think about love as having something to do with sexuality, and there is a sense in which part of ourselves, our sexual selves, is a very vulnerable part of ourselves, and that I think that there is a place for a very, very genuine love in that, but it is not the same thing as, and it's not always equivalent to, and a lot of people get themselves into trouble looking for sex when what they really need is love. And this is often the case with younger people who are struggling with being loved and struggling with loving. The confusion between sexuality and love can be very great. There's a sense in which we think of infatuation also as a form of love. And there is a sense in which it is true. Infatuation is in some ways a kind of a delightful chemical mystery, and this is more the case, I think, for the younger person. You become infatuated. You're living in an illusory world, where you think that somebody is just so wonderful, and you can stare into their eyes or watch them, but there's nothing necessarily genuine or authentic or truly relational going on in that kind of a situation. It's more of an idealization at a time in life when a person is discovering attraction, but hasn't yet learned the maturity and the depth of what a real relationship involves. And so infatuation is in some ways, for the younger person, just a kind of a delightful game of a part of growing up. As we get older, there's a sense in which our infatuations can be spoken of in a just as a a term, a manner of speaking. We can talk of infatuations idiomatically, but hopefully, as we become adults, that the nature of infatuation is something that we're growing beyond and discovering something that goes much deeper than infatuation. But at the age appropriate time, it is a delightful part of that kind of love. We talk sometimes also about love of country, patriotism, love of our loyalty to some maybe idea or philosophy, or we might look at uh, the love of our church, or the love of our family, the love. And by that, we're talking more in terms of the loyalty that we have, loyalty to our side of town, our city, our state, our country, whatever. These sorts of things, and I do think that it is a very helpful and useful thing for us to have a sense of awareness of the connection that we have in the various social groups that we belong to, and we belong to many of them. All of us do. We're multifaceted in that way. I don't think that it's a healthy thing for us to develop a sense of patriotism or love of country or love of neighborhood or this and that, where we act as if there's something more entitled about our country or our people or our things like that. So this can get misplaced as well. But there's something very healthy about finding a great deal of pride in the connection that we have with the culture and subculture we have, and yet this still isn't that vital love that I want to talk about in a moment. We sometimes talk about maternal love. And maternal love is oftentimes thought of as that love that mama has. This is a powerful thing, and it's not even necessarily something that we could attribute to good character. Not that it's bad; it certainly isn't. But when a woman has carried a child, uh, and then gives birth to that child, and then this child comes out into the world. There are just things going on inside of that mother that so strongly connects them to the child, and in many ways. This is something that can be even generalized to others, and is many times, anytime we're in a situation, whether we're a male or a female, where there's in an idiomatic way, a motherly thing going on, we can find this kind of the love of the person who we are nurturing. This is a very important kind of love, but it's still not that vital love that we're talking about, and it's a very real part of what we need in our lives. And I think that there's even a sense in which we all need to recognize that we call it maternal love, but there's we call it maternal love mostly because we tend to see it more often displayed by mothers towards their children. But this is really an axis of love that all human beings are truly capable of, and that anybody who's in a situation of being nurtured or mentored can benefit from receiving, and anybody who's in a mentoring or a nurturing role can benefit from recognizing some of these dynamics of protection and accepting and nurturing and things such as that. It's a very important part of the development of another human being and caring for that development. Then there's something we might even similar to that called paternal love, and this is so-called because we tend to see this more in what we think of as the fatherly role, but all human beings also can play a role in here, and paternal love is more the kind of love that we have when we're interested in the guiding of the decisions, the choices, the outcomes, the wisdom, some of these, what we might call more personal responsible issues that might be involved. And when any of us are in a position where we are caring about the responsibility and the development of responsibility in another human being, there's this kind of paternal love that we're talking about. And it's a very important kind of love. We are all human beings who are becoming the people that we are becoming, and we're growing into these roles. All of us having entered into this world as babies. And there's a sense in which we need to grow up, accept responsibility, find our niche, do what we're doing in this world in a very real and meaningful way that contributes, that makes us a productive member of our society. And so there's a sense, though, that this is a very vital and very important kind of love, because without it, there's no character and discipline that's being nurtured and brought about in our culture. A very important kind of love. I think something very similar to, by the way, infatuation is puppy love. This is when you just develop these crushes on somebody you don't know well, and maybe somebody who just this ain't gonna happen. I had a crush on my second grade teacher. And as a second grader, you don't even think about what the concept of such a relationship is, but for some reason this person just makes your heart go pitter patter, and you're just connected. I remember my younger sister had we were on vacation, and there was this young fellow. He must have been in his 20s at that time. We were just kids, probably 7, 5, whatever, and oh, my sister would just look into his eyes, and she was just so taken by him, and she was on cloud nine, and this puppy love kind of thing. I don't know, it really does it, but it's in a sense, it's a form of idealized hero worship. I suppose it's a part of our discovering things that we don't even know. I don't know that we can understand it, or we just see it happening and things like that. And what a cute kind of thing it is. We talk about also something similar to when we talk about eros, but romantic love, and this is a kind of love where a person might, in a relationship, try to find ways of expressing themselves cleverly, or expressing themselves in a meaningful way that connects and lets the other person know how special they are, and the effort that you've gone forth with to try to communicate that to them in a way that they find personally significant. And it is a form of both respect and admiration, as well as a form of kind of wooing. You're trying to get the other person to kind of like you back too. There's a part of that, and this also is very related to something we might call soulmates. People who just find that belonging to each other is they just can't imagine it being any other way. I know I feel this way about Lisa. I can't imagine myself married to anybody else. It just doesn't make sense to me. and it's not as if we've never had bickerings or challenges or things like that. But even the challenges that we've had have been things that have always made me a better person, and I find myself so enriched by this relationship in ways I didn't even anticipate or expect, and it causes me to feel connected in this relationship in a way that becomes difficult to imagine any other way of being in relationship. And so there's that sense of soulmate love. And also, there's something that we might call, and this is getting closer to what I would call the vital love, and that is self-love. Self-love is a positive regard for oneself. It is a recognition that I am a worthwhile person. It is a sense that I need to respect myself and that I do. Self love is not narcissism. And we do live in a Christian culture that I think has tried to, in some ways, maybe even apparently well intended, I don't know. I'm not always sold on that idea. But we're often cautioned against self love. You don't want to take this too far. I'm sorry. I don't think you can take self love far enough. Now, you can be out of balance, but it's not because you took self love too far. It's because you haven't taken the love of your neighbor far enough while you are engaged in self love. Personally, I don't see that self love is ever wrong in a sense, but to truly have a respect for, an admiration for, and a sense of wonder in the incalculable worth of being yourself, being who you are. This is very profound part of, I think, our sense of well-being, and I think a very profound part of our sense of health. Viewer comment: the Catholics still condemn self-love to this very day. It's likely that they do. It's a shame. There's a lot of religious organizations that do. They condemn this self-love. Personally, I think that self-love is so foundational and fundamental to our ability to love in any manner, that to the degree that you cannot actually honestly and genuinely love yourself, I don't think you can actually genuinely and honestly love another person in a way that is as productive for them and as valuable for them as it can be. Now, I would have to say that, like in my own case, I I have no problem telling you, I love me. I like me. I enjoy being me. I have a lot of respect for me, but I certainly don't think of myself as being a person who is, say, a cut above other people in terms of, whether or not they're as worthwhile as I am. I would hope that every human being I meet would find that way to authentically and genuinely have as much positive regard for themselves as I have for me. I hope that as time goes on, I learn to actually have even more positive and healthy and a far more mature sense of wonderment at my worthwhileness as an existence and as a person. And I would hope that all people could be involved in a trek, on a journey of life where they discover, what a privilege to be who you are. What an astounding and amazing thing. Uh, and I think that this gets closer to a concept that I would call vital love. Now, before I get into vital love, I want to say a few things about these other forms of love that we've talked about. The truth is, a lot of these other forms of love that we've talked about, some of them are really kind of driven biologically. Some of them are driven socially. Some of them are driven through some of them are driven through familiarity. Some of them are driven through, where it is you are culturally and contextually. There's a lot of different things that cause these loves to be what they are. But vital, and some of them are and involve emotion, some involve reason, some involve. But love, the vital love that we have, is not an emotion. Now, this might kind of sound strange. I'm not talking about the love that we really need is something that is kind of dry and lacks emotion. Not at all. What I'm saying is that vital love is open to any emotional experience that is appropriate to the context, no matter what that emotion is, but that the love itself is not an emotion on any level. What is vital love, as I understand it? And this is something when I call vital love, because this is the love that we all deeply need. Vital love is an awareness and a sense of value. It's a consciousness and a sense of value that is so compelling that it alters our will. it causes us to want to do certain things and to not want to do other things because of the strong sense of awareness. And this vital love, what is it aware of? And what is it compelled to do? What is it compelled to not do as a result of this powerful awareness? The awareness is, I would want to argue, something that's actually inarticulate, which is difficult to be aware of. How do you remain aware of something you don't even know how to talk about? Difficult, perhaps, but vital love is this awareness that who and what human beings are is something that is mysteriously, inarticulately, highly valuable. And we don't even know how to think about it. We don't even know how to talk about it. There's just this awareness that in some mysterious way, there's something extremely valuable going on here in being human. And this is true of myself, and it's true of others. It's true of all others. There is something going on here that I can't always, I can see manifestations of it. I can see examples of it coming through, but it's hard to find the actual bottom of it all. But it's a sense that there is something very powerfully valuable going on. And as a result of that awareness of this high value, which is in a sense is a form of consciousness, that in that consciousness, what arises is this desire, a motivation, a sense of will that is not necessarily emotionally based, but motivationally based. The desire is this: I want to find things that I can do that celebrate, express, and make obvious and declare this high value. I want to find ways of making it seen, known, celebrated, respected, understood, appreciated. And so this vital love is an awareness of something where we find ourselves actively wanting to make this something that our awareness is arrested by, is brought to, sees in an ongoing manner. And so in a positive way, vital love is motivated to do whatever it can to celebrate and rejoice in and uplift that which is loved. And then in a negative sense, it is also motivated to, I don't want to do anything that would really do damage to, that would betray, that would wrong, that would inappropriately destroy this high value. Now, let me bring this back down to some practical ways. For example, I think many times as a parent, we oftentimes can feel this way about our children, which is wonderful. But there are times when we have to discipline our children, when we have to draw a line and bring consequences. And I'll tell you this, that if as a parent, if the time when you're drawing the line and bringing the consequences to your child for their behavior, if your motivation in doing that is because, well, I don't like it when my kids disobey, I'm going to teach them a lesson. I'm not so sure that's the kind of love you need to be giving your kids. But if you realize that your children need to own their behavior, to somehow own some of the things they shouldn't have done, and need to come to terms with this, need to accept responsibility for making it right, might even need to go without or go through various different uncomfortable aspects of making what was wrong turn right, you're doing this because you care about their eventual outcome. And so you might even at times be very tough, be very hard on them in ways where sometimes you can be hard on them in a way that doesn't really accomplish the things you thought it should. But your motive, your desire in what you're doing is you're hoping that this somehow protects that which is so valuable about your child. And so this is why you're doing what you're doing. And it may involve all kinds of feelings, from being kind of angry with what they did to very frustrated with how they're behaving, and various other feelings that you might have. But it's all motivated by this vital love of valuing who they are as people, wanting that value to be preserved and celebrated and exhibited, and not violated or compromised even by them. I got a viewer comment here. Are all these forms of love good? Is there any love that you consider to be a valid form of love that you would consider damaging? Um, sure. Affection. We often think of affection. Affection can be manipulative. Affection is also something which can be very selfish. I have a great affection for things that I like, and if I'm going to be honest, or if I could be honest, or if I knew enough about my own psychology, many times the things I possess affection for are things that I'm attracted to for reasons that have to do with how I think they benefit me, or how it is that I personally enjoy them. And this is something that can be then used to manipulate others, or used to indulge myself. And I think affection is a wonderful thing, but affection can be overdone, and affection can sometimes be, like I said, manipulative, and so I think that there's a sense in which vital love is what is required for us to actually be able to manage and make the decisions as to when is it appropriate to be expressing our love in various different ways. It's almost as if all these other forms of love I've been talking about are just merely different avenues and different roads and different priorities that can be pursued by this foundation of vital love. Vital love being the very bottom source of where all these other loves can actually benefit. I have other comments here. What kind of love do you think that Paul was talking about in First Corinthians? I think Paul was talking about what I'd call vital love in First Corinthians 13. And I think also that it's very important to recognize that in First Corinthians 13, Paul is not telling us how to love. He says, love, rejoices, it believes all things, it doesn't keep a record of wrongs. He talks about all these things that love does. Well, you know what? You can kind of act out that way, and you can try to mimic that kind of an outcome. But 1 Corinthians 13, as I see it, is really talking about the sort of things that get manifested where this vital love really exists. It's just going to come out this way. It's not as if, well, the loving thing to do here is to not keep a record of wrongs. So we're not going to remember this, and we're not going to hold on to this. That's not vital love. That's not love. Love cares so much. This vital love cares so much about a person that there's no way you want their past to ever get in the way of their future if it doesn't have to. And there's no way you want what they have done in the past that doesn't get resolved to fail to get resolved, because you don't want that to ruin their future either. But you're not going to keep a record of wrongs because you care about them. What they've done is important, yes, but there's no way, when push comes to shove, sorry, the record of wrongs lose, the value of the human being wins, and we're not going to do this. And that's just what you want to do if you have this vital love. It's natural to the vital love to not want to keep that record of wrongs. It doesn't mean you're going to be gullible or stupid or silly either. Are all forms of love patient, kind, gentle, etc.? And can love be without these qualities and still be considered true love? Well, I think that it's important that we make a distinction between motive, form, and function. Motive, this is why you do what you do. Form, that's the way that you do it. Function is the outcome we're hoping that the doing of this behavior will achieve or bring about. Now, there's a sense in which when we talk about gentle, kind, and this and that, we're talking about words that we use to describe things, and I really want to say that I think that the words fail. This approximates the idea, but I think that where there is this motive of love, we find forms and experiment with forms that seem to express this, and we look for outcomes that will be produced by it that are worthy of the value and the goal that is involved. Will it always look like kindness? I don't think so. I don't think it'll always look kind, but it will always have kindness as its end, as its hoped for goal. And so there's a sense in which we can't turn this into some sort of a checklist where, okay, well, that wasn't kind, so that can't be love. Well, it's not that simple. And I think that we're all practitioners who are experimenting. We don't know how to love always, and we don't always know what the best way is to love. We don't know when to draw the line all the time or when to not draw the line. We don't know when to say, hey, cut that out. We don't know when to be stern, and so we're experimenting. But if we love, we're looking for the outcome to come about. When the outcome doesn't come about, we consider taking a different form or taking a different. And so I think that there's a sense here in which we don't want to get simplistically caught up in the language of it. We want to really be caught up more in the phenomenon of love. So I wouldn't worry too much about, I would see 1 Corinthians 13 as more being kind of a guideline, a general overview of what is most commonly expected to see growing out of this. And I don't think that means there can't be exceptions. But that's a very good question. And I hope that my answer is one that takes us away from trying to turn this into a checklist of definitions of terms and behaviors, because love really operates more at this inarticulate gut level of this consciousness of great value and a desire to behave in a way that celebrates the value and doesn't violate it. And that's not always an easy thing to figure out or know what it's done, but it is the goal that vital love has. And that more often than not will come out in a way that's very kind, very gentle, we're not keeping the record of wrongs and all those other things that we see described in 1 Corinthians 13. We have another great food for thought, Bob. Really got me thinking. Well, wonderful. Thank you. That's usually what I'm trying to do here, trying to get people to rethink a few things. Now, I want to kind of summarize this back and this concept of love. When we have I love when my gut is filled to the level. Well, awesome, Joey. I'm assuming that's Joey. My gut is awful filled. I'll tell you, we ate at the restaurant. I had this 22-ounce porterhouse, and I don't often buy porter. I haven't had a porterhouse in years, but then it was nicely cooked. I enjoy. I couldn't eat all of it. I had to bring some of it home, but I'm stuffed. Yeah. In looking at this concept though of vital love, I really believe that this vital love that I'm talking about, this consciousness of great value, this sense of great value that is so powerful, so overwhelming, that it moves us, it motivates us to want to find a way of just letting it shine, letting it be, glorifying it, not violating. This is who God is at his core. That the love of God is his creation, and us in particular as a part of this creation. I think our religion has destroyed the sense in which God is so powerfully touched by the high value that we are, the independent existence, in a sense, that he has given us, our abilities to be ourselves that are not him, in a sense, that this thing that we are called human beings is something, I think, God is just overwhelmed with the amazing value of this, and he cherishes it. It is something that is to him most precious. And I think that our theology oftentimes destroys this. And I think that sometimes the ways in which God might, in ways, be severe, and I don't agree that all of the concepts of severity of God are in any manner anything that has anything to do with God at all, but that that this is where God is at personally, in a sense, and I think it's vitally important for us to realize this. As I understand it, the Christian experience is the experience of embracing the love of God demonstrated in Christ, who came to us as love. And in spite of the fact that the way that the world reacted to him murdered him, he's not going to even let that come between us and him. He is interested in embracing, pulling back, redeeming, reconciling, bringing it all back together, because this is what is really the worthwhile thing to do with something so valuable as the human beings he's created. It is, I have another question here that says, is narcissism a form of self-love? No. No, narcissism is not self-love. It is self-distraction. It is a sense of superiority. It is actually, I believe, a coping mechanism used to disguise a sense of great inadequacy. A person who truly loves themselves does not feel inadequate in any manner and has nothing to prove and never needs to be the point. A true self-love is completely satisfied that everything is okay as it is, even if it's going to be growing into something that's going to be even better. It's okay to be where things are at. So no, I would say narcissism is not, we might talk about it as self-love, but there's a sense in which, well, when we talk about it that way, we know what we're talking about, but there's also a sense in which philosophically that's nonsense. Narcissism is not self-love. It's an attempt to overcome self-loathing by sweeping it under the rug, totally denying it. Anyhow, back to this idea that I wanted to wrap up with. As if you know me at all, you know that one of the things I talk about a great deal is the indwelling Christ. I've also talked about it in a way where I don't know what the location of all this is, and to me, this is more a phrase that is best expressed by this. If I had to find a location, it's within me. I don't know how to describe a multidimensional God, a multidimensional universe, and the God who created and the God who created, but he's within me. He lives in me, and he's deep in the center. He's deep in the center of you, and that there is this place deep within us that we're not always in touch with. It's so subliminal, so subconscious, so down deep, that loves you, that thinks you are amazing, very worthwhile, and that thinks that all human beings are. Now, I don't think our behavior is always wonderful. I don't think our insights are always good. I don't think our attitudes or our conclusions are always productive. And I don't think that our coping mechanisms, when we get all confused, and I don't think that all of the things that we decide we need to do or be, and all of our goals when they get misaligned are wonderful. But deep down inside of us is this sense of very powerful value and very powerful love. This is the main element of the presence of God. This is what it means to abide in Christ. It is to be close to this entity that is the source of this inarticulate, vital love. And I mean inarticulate. There's just no way to talk about it. It just is. It's mysterious. And it's powerful. And this becomes what we abide in. We just live in it. Don't have to even do anything with it. Just be with it. and it's a powerful thing. Anyhow, well, there we are. I've wanted to talk a little bit about love. We'll no doubt talk a little bit more about it, and I hope that the conversation has been meaningful to you. In the meantime, we'll see you again another time. See you next year, and take care. This is Bob Greaves, the Unconventional Pastor, and I'll see you on Wednesday.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Dr. Michael W. Jones is going to be up on stage with his lovely wife, Rhonda. In the meantime, we will play some enjoyable music for you. We'll be right back.